Hey guys, and welcome to my channel. This is meant to be a, I guess, breastfeeding testimonial type of a video. I just wanted to share my experience because I have so many of you guys that follow me on Instagram that ask me questions all the time. So I'm just going to share my experience from like literally delivery, maybe to like the first 2 to 4 weeks. I'm about 4 weeks postpartum right now. This is Jack. And it's been rough, and it's been rough for different reasons than the reasons that I was warned about, which is kind of why I wanted to do this video in the first place. So I guess to start, I came into this with the idea of if it works, I'll do it. If it doesn't, I won't. And I'm a pretty type A OCD person, but this was like the one thing that I was like, you know what, if it doesn't work, it's not meant to be, like fed is best, I really don't care, like, but I'll try. And I didn't take any classes. I really didn't read or research or really make an effort to learn much of anything other than just hearing what worked and didn't work for my friends, hearing what my friends had gone through. And I had the what to expect, like when you're expecting books that kind of went over stuff. So, you know, delivery day happens. We have him. We have a very uneventful and quick delivery. I was 2 weeks early, and he was perfectly fine. So obviously in those first, few minutes, it's how it normally is, I guess, where, the nurse was helping me, try to get him to latch. But, for me, like, I didn't know what a latch was supposed to look like or feel like. I mean, how could you, So, I mean, in hindsight, he really wasn't latching at all. Like, he would just be on, off, on, off, on, off, and crying. And, I just thought, I know that you're producing colostrum, which is that, milk that's just very thick, like a honey-like consistency. I didn't realize that, like, it was just going to be drops. So, I guess, like, the first, like, day, you're like, is he being fed? Like, what am I doing, And the hospital gave us, the hospital that I delivered at anyway, gave us, this paperwork that, like, we don't believe in pacifiers, we don't believe in bottles. So, like, if you're sitting there, like, stressed, not knowing, like, if what you're doing is right, it's almost like you're being set up for failure if you choose to want to do those things. So that was not a nice feeling at all. So with that being said, we did not see a lactation consultant until day 2, which I think really negatively impacted us. And from what I heard from a lot of friends was that the lactation consultants were like in some rooms during like labor, or like they were there like the minute that you delivered, or that they were like pushy. And I was like, I felt like I had no support, because an entire day had gone by of like me trying to, do whatever I thought was right. And he was a monster the entire time. And I will say that, like, I'm not a very emotional person. I really do have a thick skin, but I think the stress of everything and like what they say, like, you're going to be emotional, like, holy crap, is that true? The combination of like all of those things, it was disaster. Like, I've never felt so horrible, like, or confused in my life. So day 2 came, and, I had 2 lactation consultants come at the same time. And I felt like that was difficult because, like, one would be talking to my husband, the other one would be talking to me. And they essentially, did instruct how to, do the whole latching thing, but it was a lot of like shoving the baby onto your boob type of a thing, which can be a little overwhelming and stressful, especially if somebody's shoving your crying child onto your boob and you think that he doesn't want to be there, So there was that. And they gave us like this, binder or like folder of like, all stuff to read. Hi. You have to behave, okay? So day 2 was when he got circumcised. So he comes back zonked. Oh no, oh no. He got circumcised. He came back completely zonked and like lethargic, which, is obviously normal. But that night was awful. Like, when I'm talking like inconsolable screaming, it was so bad. And it was so bad to the point where I was one of those people who were like, I'm going to have my baby with me the entire time and I'm never going to do the nursery. Like, the nurse came in and I was just like, I needed a break. Cause I literally thought I was going to die. So she took him for like 2 hours just to do like her assessment, weigh him, all that kind of stuff. And she's like, yeah, like, nobody told you like night 2 was terrible. And I was like, what? Like, what do you mean night 2? And apparently, like, it's this whole, and she pulls out literally a piece of paper in the folder that said, like, night 2 is going to be like the worst night of your life, get ready. And it was like an entire page of like the reasonings why and all that kind of stuff. And it was just bad. So we went home, we delivered him on a Thursday, we came home on Saturday. And so he was born 7 pounds, 2 ounces. When we left, he was 6 pounds, 9 ounces, which is normal. It's normal to lose up to 10 pounds of body weight. And then we had our pediatrician appointment on Monday. So we went to the pediatrician, and again, like, the days after were just very, very stressful, me not knowing what the hell I'm doing. And in hindsight, he really wasn't latching at all. That Monday, he had lost 12% total. He was 5 pounds, 15 ounces. So, like, here come the hormones, here come the I'm a failure, I'm torturing my child type of a thing. You know, and all of a sudden, I went from logically saying, you know, Fed is best, and like, whatever happens, happens, to like, I need and want to be able to do this for him. So I don't know where that came from. Maybe it was like a motherly instinct or something that like I never expected, but that was so stressful. Because I was like, why is this not working? Why can't I do this? It was just such an awful feeling. And then I feel like I was almost like brainwashed into thinking like, I can't give bottles, I can't do this, it's bad. Like, if I give him a pacifier, he's never going to want to breastfeed, he's going to need braces, and like, it's just all the crazy irrational stuff that, you know, when you have a baby, I guess you think. And it's funny because whenever I've like heard people like talk about stuff like that, I'm like, I'm never going to be like that. And then like you have the kid and it's like, oof. To make a long story short, the doctor really encouraged us to supplement with formula to get him like back up in weight. And I know that many moms are gonna, you know, feel a certain way. I know that many people feel a certain way. But my thing is, like, you know, granted, like, I'm a nurse and I have common sense and I know some things. I know nothing about kids, and the pediatrician knows a lot about kids. And I picked a pediatrician that I valued and trusted, that I liked. And I, you know, had the mentality of whatever he suggests or tells me to do, I'm going to do, because what do I know? He obviously knows better than I do. So I think it's pretty ignorant to not listen. So, you know, both my husband and I were like, you know, the most important thing is that he gains weight and that he goes up in weight. And we'll figure it out later. But this is what we need to do now, even though it's not the most desirable situation. And even though it's against everything that the paperwork said at the hospital. So we did that. We got his weight up. And he recommended a lactation consultant that the office used. So she actually came to our home, which was so much more helpful than the hospital. And here's why. When you're in the hospital, you're stressed, you're uncomfortable, you're in a hospital bed, the pillows suck. Even if you bring your own, just everything is just terrible about the hospital. There's people coming in and out, the lighting is off, like everything is just, you know, not conducive to having, like, I think a nice experience. So when the lactation consultant came to the house, she was able to like help me in areas of the home where I was trying to breastfeed. So she was like, you really shouldn't be trying to breastfeed him on that couch. Like, you should, you know, be upright in a chair, or if you're going to do it here, here's a way to make it work. So it was so much more practical. I spent $50. She was at our house for like an hour and a half helping me. So it was totally worth it. And something that I 100% would recommend, because it was very helpful. I think I'll do another video on like tips and stuff and different products that I've used, just because I don't want to make this super long, because I feel like people get bored and, you know. So she came to the house and she was like, his latch is like god awful. So not to be like, you know, TMI, but if you're one of those people, I guess you could stop watching. But she basically, well, she thought that his latch was very immature, and she thought that his sucking was not very efficient. And even when we had given him bottles, they took forever. He was, you know, making all these sounds, and it wasn't good. So she suggested we use a pacifier so that we could teach him how to suck. And she thought maybe because he was 2 weeks early, he just, you know, and he's a boy and lazy, he needed a little bit more, you know, encouragement. So we started using a pacifier. And like, even she was like, you know, the hospitals, like, you know, convince you to like do this, this, and that. But you got to do what's best for you, you know? So that happened. And then she had me start using a shield because I guess my anatomy isn't as erect as it could. And she thought, you know, maybe that's why he's not latching also. So I've honestly been using those ever since, and I hate them. And I'll talk about them more in the next video that I do. But he was able to latch, and he was getting fed. So the next 2 weeks were like, we were at the pediatrician like every 2 to 3 days because of weight checks. We were going up and down, up and down, up and down. We didn't even surpass his birth weight until week 4, which is just so stressful and terrible. So it's been a long 4 weeks, but if you're breastfeeding or choosing to breastfeed, just expect to be going to your pediatrician like somewhat regularly and often in the beginning, because apparently it is normal for that up and down type of a thing. How much of an up and down, I'm honestly not sure because I only know what I've been through, but I wasn't expecting to be there like 3 times a week just to weigh. So yeah, so we had just been going back and forth with literally everything. So at one point we had stopped doing we only did formula, I think, for 2 days. And then, you know, the lactation consultant had showed me how to use my pump that I got from my insurance company. So I started pumping, and we were trying to, like, I guess, I'm trying to just keep a timeline, but I guess a few days into it, or maybe like in week 2, I would try to breastfeed him, and then I would offer him a bottle with like an ounce after every single feeding. And that was to hopefully like bring his weight up. Sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't, sometimes he took it, sometimes he didn't. And it was just, I feel like every time we went back to the pediatrician, they would have us try something a little bit different to just see if that like helped us consistently. Hey, Peanut. And yeah, so then what happened? It was about a week, almost 2 weeks into it. We had seen the other pediatrician in the practice who was like, you know, do you think have you ever seen him stick out his tongue? And I was like, no. And she really like did a good assessment in his mouth, and she thought that maybe he had a tongue tie. So if you don't know what a tongue tie is, it's when your frenulum, that little under your tongue, is kind of anchoring your tongue down a little too much. It's supposedly common. I had never heard of it up until this. But they have to go to an ENT or like a pediatric dentist, and I think some lactation consultants might even do that kind of a thing. I'm not sure, but she recommended that we go to an ENT for a consult. So we went in week 2. ENT thought that he had a little one. That was a very simple procedure, even though I was a basket case and like hysterical while it was happening, but they literally just stick a pair of tiny scissors in their mouth and they snip it so that it could free their tongue. And he like latched immediately with the shield and was eating so much better and like actually staying on for longer periods of time. So when we had gone back after that, that was at we were there for maybe like it was 2.5 weeks into it. We finally just started to, or I think we had broken even with weight, and we had gone back at week 4 and he had surpassed his birth weight. So that helped. So it's been a long, long road, but what really makes me upset is that, you know, I had seen a total of 3 lactation consultants, a pediatric resident, a pediatric fellow, a pediatrician in a teaching hospital, nurses, and a lactation consultant that came to my house, and nobody picked up on the tongue tie. And I don't know when those are usually picked up on, but I just feel like my whole breastfeeding experience has sucked, and I think that that has contributed to it, because maybe if that had been caught a little sooner, we wouldn't have had just like the constant like weight issues or the sleep issues or the thriving issues, or maybe we wouldn't have had to supplement them with formula right away or at all. I don't know. So, I mean, this is what I thought the experience was going to be like. I thought that everything from what my friends had told me was going to be regarding my own personal issues with breastfeeding. Like, it's going to hurt. You're going to be sore. You may have broken skin. You may need to use nipple balm. You may need to do this. You may need to do that. So selfishly, I'm thinking like, I could deal with pain. I could deal with discomfort. I could deal with waking up every 2 hours. What I didn't prepare myself for was like the emotional stress that goes with it. And again, I'm not really an emotional person, so I never even like considered that. But it was like I would just randomly just start crying for no reason, or if he wouldn't latch, I would start crying. And like, I know that I don't have postpartum depression, but I was very like sad at times. It wasn't all the time, but it was just, I would get sad. I was very sensitive, if that makes sense, extremely sensitive to like everything. And I felt like a lack of trust for like healthcare providers because I just felt like things were missed. And as one, that's so disappointing because I feel like we make bad patients anyway. So that just didn't help at all. So it's currently week 4. Thursday will be week 5. It's Tuesday right now, so we're very close. And I feel like I'm pumping more than I am breastfeeding just because it's easier for me. I feel like I'm a little bit more comfortable knowing exactly what he's getting. Like I feel like I'll breastfeed him like very early in the morning and then very late at night, but I'm kind of pumping like as if I went back to work, if that makes sense. And it's been a long road emotionally in just being accepting of like, it's not a one-size-fits-all thing. And why I'm doing this video, I want people to know that whatever you decide to do is okay. Don't let any person, anyone, any piece of literature, any piece of paper convince you that what you're going to do or what you're doing is wrong. Because everybody has to do things for different reasons. And again, just like infertility, this is one of those things that not a lot of people talk about. And when people do talk about them, it's different. Like I feel like I've heard stories of like breastfeeding is so easy. You can just pop them on, pop them off, and go right back to bed. That's not true, not in the beginning anyway, and it's been over a month, you know? I feel like feeding takes like a half an hour. It's like 15 minutes, like 15 minutes of burping, and then a half an hour of being upright. It's no pop on and pop off. Like, what are you, out of your mind? Maybe in time it gets to be that way, but So and then there's the other people who are like, it was so painful and it hurt and my nipples were bleeding, and like nobody really talks about like the stigma of like women judging other women and women influencing other women either negatively or positively for like the choices that they make. And I'm sorry, but like there really shouldn't be a stigma with a pacifier, and there shouldn't be a stigma with a bottle, because for this baby, I could give him a pacifier, a bottle, or a boob, and he takes them all. I mean, he doesn't really rely on the pacifier, and he doesn't need the pacifier, but like every once in a while, if I know that he's fed and I know that he's clean, I'll give it to him. If he's being a monster, he'll calm down for a little bit and then spit it out, you know? Like it's not the end of the world that he has a pacifier. So in hindsight, if I could go back and do everything all over, what would I do? I would have brought a pacifier to the hospital. I would have liked to have taken maybe a breastfeeding class, even though I feel like anything that I read, saw, or heard was like in one ear and out the window once all the hormones kicked in anyway. So maybe I would have liked to have taken a class. Maybe I would have liked to have set up like a La Leche. They have like groups everywhere. Maybe I would have liked to have gone to one and like set up some relationships with people and whatnot. I would have, I guess, maybe had done more research so that I could have asked about the tongue tie a little bit sooner, even though, like, what do I know? And I would have at least, like, had the conversation, like, with my husband of, like, you know, this is what we want to do, but please remind me that, like, I don't have to do this, or that, or remind me that I'm not a failure, or, like, because I feel like it's so tough for, like, the husband, too, because, like, they don't know anything, and, like, they're not going to read about breastfeeding usually. So, like, they feel helpless, like, watching you cry, watching the baby cry, and, like, just not knowing anything, and you're seeing the weight loss, you know. So, yeah, and then the lactation consultant to the house I would recommend. I'll do a different video on tips. I'm personally going to try to stick it out. We'll see how things go. I'm currently right now trying to get my supply to go up, but I had issues with my pump. I'm going to probably do a whole video on the whole pumping situation. But I just feel like there's not a lot of help for women when they, you know, and I know that there's no, like, I know that he didn't come with an actual manual, but there's some things that I feel like women could know or should know before they go into things that would just make your life so much easier. So if this helps you at all, like I'd like to know. And if you are a mom and you've been through this and you have tips or suggestions for anybody that might be in the first 2 to 4 weeks, comment below because I would just love to get whatever tips you might have that might help me as well, because I'm obviously new. This is my first child and I have no idea what I'm doing. So there's that. But in the next couple of weeks, I'm going to try to, one, get my supply up, get a more consistent schedule, hopefully try to wean that god-awful Shield. But I mean, the other thing too, I didn't have any like skin breakdown. And I really haven't had any of the issues that people told me about. Isn't he cute? I didn't have any of the issues that people warned me about. All my issues are completely different. So hopefully you guys find that helpful, and I'll see you guys soon. Bye.